She's our first female guest, and we're gonna talk about money, we're gonna talk about production, and we're gonna talk about networking in a fast-growing industry.
We're so happy to have Sarah here. Thank you so much for coming. One of the requirements that you guys have is to book local talent,
Yes.
right?
What we really want to do is give them a voice. I think that AI is a great tool.
Yes.
And I think it should stay a tool.
What brought you here? Did you come with Versatile? What made you think that this is the right place to be at this moment?
Well, I'm super mentally unstable. The leveraging and showcasing of local talent on the big screen raise a significant amount of money, and we have access to Bollywood, Hollywood.
How do producers make money?
Nervous laughter. We have relationships with brands. We have a talent management portfolio, and then we also have our film production side.
How was it being a female in a male-led industry?
You just have to own your space.
Yeah.
We'll stab each other, get hurt, and then get up again because we're strong women.
Yes.
We're gonna stab each other?
For fun.
For fun.
Yeah. For someone who's interested in starting in production, what would you recommend them to do?
Cut. The movies that we're actually producing ourselves in-house.
Ooh.
The crew were just, it was like a military base.
I've honestly learned a lot in this episode.
Yeah, so much.
Hi everyone, today we have a very special guest. She's our first female guest, and we're gonna talk about money, we're gonna talk about production, and we're gonna talk about networking in a fast-growing industry.
We're so happy to have Sarah here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys for having me. I mean, already I was nervous, and you had to look so beautiful and make it
Look at yourself.
so much harder.
Look at the camera and show people your eyes, just so they, like, babes, you're beautiful, mashallah.
Don't get me started.
But yeah, we met through Versatile.
Yes.
So we're really excited for you to explain what that is, what is Versatile, and everything that you do in production as well.
Yeah, for sure. So Versatile Synergy is a agency that's partnered on the VC side of the family office of Mustafa bin Abdul Latif, so MBAL for short. In Versatile Synergy, there's 3 different verticals. I mean, we have digital transformation, where we kind of cater to, you know, all the marketing, content, etc. that companies or even individuals need. The second side of it is partnerships, so strategic partnerships, where we partner with international or even local tech companies, and we help them launch and penetrate the market in this region. And then the third, which is the most fun, is mine. And so this is under kind of a marketing and strategic partnerships. So what I refer to it usually as is, you know, media and entertainment. So what we have in my vertical of Versatile Synergy is a 3-prong approach.
Okay.
So we have relationships with brands, we have a talent management portfolio, and then we also have our film production side, right?
Wow.
Okay, that's nice.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm very busy. So what we do is we've kind of created like a symbiotic relationship within this ecosystem for each part. So we have the brand relationships, and that can tie into the film by means of product placement, for example. So we recently worked on City of Life. I know you guys have had all the City of Life people on.
Yeah.
So we help them with product placement, raise a significant amount of money through those strategic partnerships with companies in all different industries, international companies, local UAE companies, luxury, financial, across all those different verticals. Then the other way that the brand relationships play in is if brands are doing activations or if they have different campaigns, we can then pluck from our talent portfolio, which I hope you guys are joining. And we can then, you know, create these campaigns or sponsorships in collaboration with our talents.
That's amazing.
The third way is that we also leverage our talent in the film side.
Okay.
So what's something that is very big to us as a company is the leveraging and showcasing of local talent on the big screen, right?
Okay.
There's so many people out here that are incredibly talented off screen and on screen. And what we really want to do is give them a voice. And, you know, just even where we sit geographically, we touch so many markets. We have African markets, South Asian markets, Far East Asian. We have access to Bollywood, Hollywood. We're sitting right in the middle of the world. Why are we not, you know, leveraging the people that are already here? Because what we've noticed sometimes in film is that they'll bring their own teams, right? And they're not necessarily hiring sur place. And this is something that we really want to fix, not fix, but, you know, work on moving forward. with the production houses that we collaborate with as their regional affiliates, or even with the movies that we're actually producing ourselves in-house.
Wait. You need to tell us a little bit more about
Yes,
that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a little nugget. We're super excited. So we're working with Neil Marshall. So Neil he actually directed season 2 of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
It's
someone.
Yeah. And then he did, what was it called? Hellboy.
Okay.
He's super accredited in his field, an absolute, trailblazer in action and fantasy and everything. So we are partnering with his production company.
How did you guys got in contact with them? How does it work? How do production companies partner?
Networking.
Okay.
I mean,
but are
out
they
here.
based here in Dubai? No.
So no, they're based in the UK.
Okay.
And then so what we're trying to do with them is we're creating a partnership, and then he's developing 2 scripts for us along with his partner JD. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we're hoping that like by Q4 the scripts are ready. We can start like workshopping that and financing, and then inshallah
Inshallah.
get into pre-production.
So is he writing the stories as well, or
Yeah.
he has a team of
writing and directing.
Okay,
Well,
wow.
co-writing and
Nice.
directing with his
Amazing.
partner. Yeah.
So is that how it works? Production companies find someone who writes a script for them, and then they bring the script into life through, for example, finding a director, funding it. How does the process work?
Okay, so you have the initial phase is the script,
Okay.
right? You need a script, but to get a script done, you need some money.
Okay.
Sometimes, most of the time, actually, 100%. Pay your script writers.
Don't
Don't not pay them. And so what you do is you get a script. Either you're developing it as we're doing, and then you're finding financing, etc., or there's already a script there and they're shopping it. So especially in the independent film industry, it works like this. So you have the script, then you bring on different people and you negotiate the rights.
Okay.
Right? Because what you can risk happening is, the script is there, it's paid for, but then, if you don't have majority stake over that script, it can get shelved.
Yeah.
And then you kind of lose your investment.
Okay.
So you have the script, you negotiate the rights, then you move from there to attaching cast or like a cast wish list. So you start, shopping the script around with different agents, seeing who's interested, who's available, etc. Then from there, you move into financing. So that's when you start to work out like your budgets, in terms of cast, location, crew. And then from there, you move into pre-production or, the shooting phase, and you're working at all of those kinks, etc. Then you move from there to post-production. Post-production is editing, getting the final film wrapped together. And then in that phase, you'll also start like exploiting. So you'll start selling that like either regionally with streamers. But again, that can be negotiated in the beginning once you're
Makes
shopping
sense.
the script, right? So
yeah.
regional sales in terms of streaming, different distributors in terms of like cinema, etc. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
It's
it's a lot.
Honestly, I think
Yeah.
it's super important to say that we don't know much about production. So everything that we are learning now, we're learning at the same time as you guys.
Yeah.
Also
so-
as me, I mean, I haven't been, I'm not 30 years in the film industry. I mean, I've always had an interest, and I kind of want to give that disclaimer. So I've been very involved from like an audience or spectator perspective. And then now, once we started working on City of Life, and also a little bit before that, like we started deep dive.
Okay.
Of course, this is a growing industry, especially
Yeah.
here in Dubai. So it makes sense that we're all like growing at the same time
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, that brings me to my question actually. What made you come here? And obviously, respectfully, that sounded so. What made you come here?
Why are you here?
Why are you here?
But seriously, like the media in the UAE is such a growing industry, and
Yeah.
I've been noticing that so much of attention from people in media have been towards the UAE and the growing industry that is happening. So, what brought you here? Did you come with Versatile? What made you think that this is the right place to be at this moment?
So I'm actually third generation Dubai Desi. So my grandfather is from Pakistan,
Ooh.
and he came over in like the 60s, 70s.
Okay.
And my uncle's, raised here, born here. Yeah. So, and then I grew up between here and Switzerland, and I spent, I went to boarding school for my A levels, and then I spent the last 10 years in Europe full time. But I moved back because I moved back almost 2 years ago now. I'm approaching my 2-year anniversary. And it wasn't a decision I wanted to, honestly, I didn't want to come back. If I'm going to
Really?
be, yeah, I didn't want to come back. I was very settled. I had my friends, like, you know, I had my way of life, etc. I mean, I always came back to Dubai and I checked in and saw everyone, but I was very comfortable and I thought that Europe was the right place. And then, like, not to get too political, but if you look at the shifts that we're seeing out there, right, for people of color, for foreigners, it doesn't matter, you know, who you are, where you come from here.
Exactly.
Right? And like, so when I ended up having to move back home, I realized like this was kind of the universe that sent me back home, and I'm exactly where I need to be.
Wow.
And something that we're also noticing in the film side is that a lot of the big names in Hollywood, for example, I know that this from like, you know, some industry people, they're all moving here.
Yeah. That's the
They're
thing.
all
honestly,
moving here.
we'll hear
Every
the
single
same thing.
every single person I talk to, big names, like huge directors, huge
Everyone
producers.
says that
Or they're
Hollywood
already
and-
here. There's
yeah.
a couple in Abu Dhabi I saw the other week,
know,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh,
What are you doing here?
okay.
Yes.
Hi there.
What we've seen politically as well play out in Hollywood over
of
the
course.
past 2 years.
Yeah.
I think that there's been a lot of highlighting of the lack of actual creative freedom
Yeah.
that actors or whoever, the projects they work on, what they can speak about, what they can't speak about. And, you know, I feel like this part of the world, we are not perfect, but we are accommodating and we are so open-minded. And with all these big names that are moving out here, they're not moving to Europe. They're not moving, you know, to the UK. They're moving here.
Yeah.
And I really believe that with this migration, why shouldn't we take advantage? Why shouldn't we capitalize on this migration? You know, if we now have access to all of these people on a local level, let's level up.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
You know, so
For sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I heard that you said earlier, obviously on the process of creating a movie. There's a process when obviously you have to look for agencies for actors, etc.
Yeah.
How will that work here in Dubai, for example? That there are no
there
agencies.
aren't agencies.
Yeah.
Do you guys like? Is that what you guys are trying to fix now by having talent in your roster and then going directly to them, or how will it work?
A little bit. I mean, the idea is to be able to plug and play from our pool, right? But we are also of the opinion of like quality over quantity. So we have a very tight list. So we're trying to keep it
And
that
you
way.
also don't just represent actors. You have
Yeah, we have
sort
everything.
of type
So,
of talent.
and also I would like to, like, just to clarify, we do not represent. You have your agents or your managers or whatever. We advocate, right? So in conversations, we just say, hey, we have access to this person. We believe they'd be an appropriate fit.
okay, makes sense.
You know, Dubai is super small. We all know each other through someone or someone else. So it's kind of like people operating at a certain level. It's a lot easier to tap into.
Yeah.
I, as someone who grew up in Switzerland, hate the informality and the lack of.
You don't like that?
No, I don't like it because I want a document and I want, you know, I want to put it in a file and I want, you
That's
know,
my
I
favorite
want a
thing about
process.
Dubai. I'm like the most informal, the better. Just like
Yeah.
It's so informal.
it's so
here.
informal.
It's so
Everything is through
informal.
WhatsApp. Everything is
Yeah.
like
I
there's no
know.
emails.
And you
But there should be
just-
some regulation, you know,
Yeah.
as well. I mean,
you just trust each other. But,
Yeah, literally,
But
literally.
one thing definitely like that I always tell my friends, I always tell people in this industry, just because you agreed on WhatsApp doesn't mean you don't need a proper email,
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
proper document, whatever it is, like stating the agreement that I owe you this, you owe
Yeah.
me that. Because so many times this happened where you do a job and you haven't signed a contract, and either you as a production company, you don't have rights over your talent, and
Yeah.
or the talent doesn't get their money back.
Yeah.
So it's very complicated.
It's super
if you
complicated.
Don't,
That's why like having these processes is actually an advantage to the talent.
Of course.
Right? Because I mean, there's horror stories. Let's not bring that up actually. Let's not
Let's
talk
not
about
start.
it.
Well, I could, but let's just not
Let's-
for
yeah,
this
let's-
episode.
let's not bring it up. No,
Not
no.
for this episode.
Yeah, agree. So cut.
that will be in the trailer.
Oh my god. Okay. No. So yeah, I think that we do need to start. I mean, as we formalized, right, and as you know, for me, for my work, as we start to work with like different international production houses or international talent, they're used to having that setup, and it's not the best to go from that to the Wild West a little bit in terms of, you know, organization and regulation. So I think maybe formalizing it a little bit
Yeah.
Okay.
is better for everyone.
I can imagine as well if all these like big celebrities etc who are coming here, if things remain as they are now, it will be very difficult to like manage everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It will have to be. There will have to be a switch.
and the
for
good
sure
thing
happening.
for sure here that I'm very confident with, because I grew up here and I know how things kind of grow fast, mashallah. One thing I know for sure, that if all the big names are coming here and there's growth happening, for sure there are going to be new regulations. There are going to be so many improvements
Yeah.
happening, because this is a fact. It's growing and it's fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah,
Honestly, mashallah, the government here,
That's what I was just
so
about to say.
reactive.
Yeah.
I mean, like even now for AI, we have like an AI regulatory authority.
Did you know that? Did you know that they started teaching kids in school starting from next
yes.
year AI? That's how fast they are.
Yeah.
The government here is very, as you said, reactive to,
Yeah, super
to
reactive.
growth. So I'm not worried.
No.
I'm comfortable. I'm not worried.
Really
I'm
Things
exciting.
will
happy.
happen as you know, the growth takes place. You know, it's supply demand. It's always being matched. So
Amazing.
That's
Yeah.
insane. I noticed also you said something interesting. You said you go to agencies to find the cast before you find the crew.
uh,
Is it more or less?
it's, I would say, just from my perspective of like, you know, raising capital, it is a lot easier if you have like, let's say 1 or 2 big names attached. I can
course.
sell this faster, right? There'll be a lot more people interested
Okay.
if there's like reputable names
Of
attached
course.
to a project. But when it comes to crew, I mean, I mentioned this before, we are super adamant about local jobs. And, you know, when I was on set for City of Life, honestly, I've never seen anything like that.
In what sense?
The crew were just, it was like a military base in the best way. Like the crew were so organized. I mean, you look at a room and there would be, you know, like a set, like an art director with a vision, and then you look this way, you look back, and the whole room is transformed.
Wow.
So fast.
Like
is-
lighting, makeup, everyone. It was just so impressive to me, and it was, everyone worked in sync and with so much respect to the other. I mean, it's very much like, this is your craft. How can I, you know, help? That crew, honestly, I think has been a gold star for me.
That's
How
amazing.
did you accomplish that? I know for a fact that that's very difficult to accomplish. So how, as a production company, were you able to accomplish having so much harmony within the people who are on set, the crew basically?
So that all credit to AFM.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So-
don't think you guys were the production.
No, we
company.
weren't.
Yeah.
We were helping. We were assisting on the product placement side.
Okay.
Predominantly.
Okay.
But I was a featured extra. Ooh,
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
The,
Which
the blurred
scene?
hostess in the back. That's me. IMDb page pending. So yeah, I mean, that was totally Ali and his team and his production team, Barish and Adnan. They put in a beautiful team together.
Yeah, amazing.
And the way that they also work together is super, super impressive. And I literally, it has set like a gold standard for
Wow.
us.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's
For
awesome.
someone who's interested in starting in production, what would you recommend them to do? Because honestly, I've got no idea.
Zero.
Honestly, I wish I had more advice. I ended up here by accident.
How did it happen for you?
So when we were helping with the product placement for City of Life, because, you know, Mohammed, who's our CEO, he is an actor in his own right.
We're gonna have him here soon as well. so-
soon.
I'm so
Can't
excited for that. Mohammed, be prepared.
He'll have you guys doing some yoga.
Yeah.
It'll
Oh,
be.
that's nice. That's so
He's very
nice.
versatile.
Ooh.
Yeah. So when we were working on that, he gets different scripts brought to him, either for, you know, acting or for funding. Like they're potentially, you know, maybe your family office
Yeah.
is interested. It's not usually their style, film funding, but then we realized, hey, we raised a significant amount of money for product placement in City of Life within 2 months while they were shooting. So that means it's like, yo, next week we have this scene, get me a jewelry brand, for example. It's like, okay, be right back. Let me go find a jewelry brand.
And how did you find it?
So this is the thing with the UAE. I mean, it's a relationship-based
Yes.
economy. So once you're in and you know people, and we're so willing to help everyone. So it has been, you know, through connections and, you know, that through Muhammad's connections actually that we were
Makes
able
sense.
to raise a lot, and also my own and people that we're friends with, and even people on our talent roster know people, and it's just everyone is so involved, right?
that's nice.
so we were getting all these scripts for funding, and we just kind of said, hey, we don't really do funding, but we can help you raise via product placement because we have all these relationships with brands. And then that kind of just snowballed into, getting introductions to different like national film funds and them looking for projects to invest in, and different streamers that are also looking for sponsorships or looking to invest in a project. And so it just kind of kept growing and growing and growing, and now here we are producing 2 movies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the movies, or is that
I think
top
I can
secret?
do a little bit.
Yes,
a little
please.
bit.
Woohoo.
So one of them is, this is gonna be super brief, but we have Spies.
I want to get the casting right now. Look at us.
No, honestly, was it ethnically ambiguous? Love it. Best Spies ever. Let's
Right?
go. Yeah.
Wait, but is it produced by you guys?
So
or
it'll
is-
be in partnership with Neil and JD and
Okay.
their production company. So it's Spies in a luxury resort, off the grid, things play out.
I
the
love
way
luxury
they plan.
resort.
You're making me daydream now.
I mentioned to JD, who's Neil's partner in his company, I was like, you really picked quite the location, the script, the plot.
You've seen the location already?
No, not yet. We're going to be scouting that
Okay.
ourselves. But I was like, yeah, if I'm going to write a story, I'm going to put it in a luxury resort.
Yeah.
I mean, off grid.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, wow.
I
And
totally
then,
got it.
so one of the requirements that you guys have is to book local talent, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, that was the great thing about working with Neil is that girl, listen.
This girl is smart.
She's so smart. I love it. Escándalo. Okay.
Escándalo.
No,
Ooh.
so, I mean, obviously, guys, we'll talk about that later. But
We're literally signing a talent agreement with them. So
no, doors are open. So I made it very, very clear from the beginning, because part of our ethos is inclusivity and, progressive values. So I was like, I don't want the standard American, British guy, blah, blah, blah. I was like, let's have some, people from the African continent. Let's have some, people from Central Asia, from Far East Asia. Like, because we're in Dubai. It wouldn't make sense to have it not be as inclusive and representative as it could be.
Of course.
Yeah.
For this place. I mean, like, alhamdulillah, we are such a blessed community and we're so mixed.
Yeah.
And everyone is like, gets along. And so I told them, I was like, whatever we're working on, this is like number one priority.
I love that.
An absolute agreement.
wow.
And
Which was great.
how did, because obviously that's something that for us that we live here, it's super important. But how did Neil, for example, see value in hiring local talent here?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's a good question.
He was super on board. And just like, honestly, his enthusiasm was so refreshing and exciting, because you don't really know how people are going to take that. And he was like, absolutely.
I love
He's
that.
looking to, hasn't really filmed in an environment like this, whether it be like location or just vibes. And he's super keen, super excited. And honestly, I'm so happy that we're partnering with him on this project.
That's huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're aware of how huge that is.
That is project number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 2 projects, both with him and his company, and JD. So the second project is, again, a very high level.
Yeah.
A film crew gets stranded in the desert,
Okay.
and like their plane crashes, etc. And then there's some hyenas.
Oh no.
There's some poachers, traffickers, but it's also gonna have elements of like dark humor because it's like a film crew, right? So you have like agents and they're all gonna be reacting different ways to situations.
God,
so
that sounds
Imagine
so
an actor with like the director with someone who works in production, and then you can clearly see how everyone will handle it.
That sounds so fun.
yeah.
That's
Amazing.
So we were like, these are perfect.
Yeah.
So we picked those 2 projects, and I'm so excited to start.
and then you guys will be like doing. Would you be like the main production company who will work with them, or how would it work?
So I mean, you never know how it goes in film, right? Because most production companies, like, they have their own projects, and then over the time of things, like, you end up adding more people, and just to add value, right? So what we're also trying to do is a consultancy. So we've become like the regional affiliates for a lot of different production houses or different projects.
Okay, nice.
So we're working on a comedy right now, like a UK comedy. They're going to have a
filmed
storyline.
here?
Yeah, they're going to film
Okay.
here. They have a storyline in the UAE. So we're trying to advise like Abu Dhabi or Dubai,
Yeah.
you know, or where can we help you get the tax credits and rebates? What locations, you know, would offer you like the best
Amazing.
bang for your buck? So we're out here having those conversations on their behalf.
Okay.
And trying to sort of, you know, be that extra arm
Okay.
that they have out here.
I'm very curious to know how your day looks like because
Girl, me too.
It's never the same.
are you ever on set? Are you always between meetings? Are you always networking? Like, what does your day look like?
Nervous laughter. It's it really depends day by day, to be honest. So I mean, like we'll have meetings and like, you know, Muhammad is amazing except for when he randomly adds me to a meeting like the night before and I have zero context and I'm just there like for vibes, like hey. But it's great though because it keeps you on your toes and every day is different and every day is exciting and you meet all these people. And the great thing about our industries is that everyone is like-minded, right? There's no space for being, you know, for being uninclusive or for being, you know, you have to have passion and you have to have respect for the art and, you know, the culture and everything else. So it's a really, really nice, like safe space to be in.
I love to hear that with what you're saying, you're explaining that being part of production, it's also a very creative job.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because normally we think, you know, acting and directing, etc., is like the creative side of filmmaking, and then we think production is just the, you know, behind the desk, calling which maybe some part of it is
Oh, for
as
sure,
well,
yeah.
but it's very creative as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Yeah,
nice.
because you're in essence like there's a vision, right? And either a director or a screenwriter has a vision, or it's a shared vision. Like for example, the film we're making with Neil, and we're all passionate, enthusiastic about it. So the difference is that he'll be filming it, but I'll be like
You're
funding
making
it.
it happen.
Yeah.
You're the one who makes it happen.
No. I mean, everyone makes it happen.
Yeah, it's a team.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
it's such
true.
a team effort, and but it is a very interesting space to be, especially like as a woman. I don't think that there is a lot of like female representation behind the camera.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
How
for sure.
was it being a female in a male-led industry?
I mean, it
within
has
production?
It has its challenges.
Okay.
Like anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is kind of, you know, understanding how to portray yourself. Not even portray yourself. I don't like that because it gives the impression that like it's all on the women. But I think that where we are, at least like now in society, like moving forward, you just have to own your space.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the biggest advice I give people is like, you know, own your space, be who you are, don't make yourself smaller.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Speak your opinions, ask your questions, like even if it's intimidating and there's a bunch of, you know, guys around, if they're older, younger, etc., it doesn't matter. Like who you are and how you represent yourself is so important. And I feel like we make ourselves smaller and we get nervous and we don't know, oh, should I have said that? No, men don't think that.
Yeah.
Men just ask stuff.
True. That's so true.
So like just ask stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And I also believe that, you know, your capability and your understanding will always shine through. Like no matter what you're talking about. If that's your topic and that's something that you know you're about, like that's going to come out in conversation and in meetings.
for sure.
That's so
And then that builds its own, like you create your own reputation. You garner respect, right? So that's
Have
my
you always
advice.
been like this, or is something that you're like slowly learning and growing as you go?
Oh no, I think I've always been a bit direct.
We love a direct queen.
God did not make me with a filter, unfortunately.
Fortunately.
Yeah, it depends how you see it. But I think it's also something that, you know, as you grow, and I use the word grow specifically because I think as people, we're always supposed to be in a constant state of like evolving, right? And I specifically say that as opposed to the word changing, because like no one changes. You are who you are. You can go up or down 10%, but like your core is your core. And I think once you start to accept that, right? So I mean, for me at least, being from a South Asian background, you know, women aren't exactly celebrated for being loud and opinionated and, you know, advocating for themselves. So it's something that I've always kind of done to an extent. And now as I get older, I realize like that's who I am. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And the more you accept you, the more you shine and the more you show out, you know?
Wow.
That is actually something to be celebrated.
For sure.
Rather than saying there's nothing wrong with it. No, this is something that should be celebrated.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
for me to see a woman leading, being direct, doing so much in production, doing so much in an industry and doing it unfiltered, for me that's something that I look up to. I'm 23, turning 24 this month, but to hear that makes me
Mabruk.
Thank you. It makes me genuinely look up to what you have accomplished. So
Thanks.
okay. So how do you find production evolving with the growth of AI and TikTok culture and the fast-paced life that we're living now?
That's such a good question. For me personally, and I'm only representing myself here today. I believe that, you know, art should be with artisans. And I think that, you know, I don't necessarily want, you know, vocations to be erased. I don't want to see, you know, photographers losing work or, you know, actors or models, etc. Like I really believe that in the core of our humanity is art, right? Whether that's expressed in whichever way, if it's, you know, literature or photography or even math. Like math is artistic to a degree, right? And I think that once we kind of lose that or outsource it completely, what's the basis of our humanity after that? You know? But I think that AI is a great tool.
Yes.
And I think it should stay a tool. Like I know for City of Life, for example, when we were doing the product placement stuff, we would have meetings with brands and we would show them an AI trailer. And this is actually something that's like very new to the industry, because before when you pitch a movie, you just like have a deck. A deck, or you know, they would have had to have already like spent a bunch of money and created a small trailer or a snippet or something. Pilot. So for TV at least. So now we could at least show them like, hey, this is in essence what we're trying to make. And it honestly, when I saw the AI trailer for City of Life, I got goosebumps.
No way.
Yeah. And I think it's a great tool that way, right? And even now, for example, for me, like we're making these two movies. I used AI to kind of play with, you know, a little movie poster. And so it's just the small ways where it really does add value.
Of course.
And so I think that it is remiss to just completely turn away from it and say, no. But I do like stand with, you know, all the protests that were happening in Hollywood. The SAG stuff, you know, also in terms of screenwriting. Like I personally, as me, I feel very protective over that. And I'm not even a creative, right? And what's great to see is, you know, hopefully, inshallah, when we move forward, it will be a very ethical adaptation of AI into the industry.
I really hope so.
Yeah, I really hope so.
I remember you saying that you were a little bit scared about the future and how AI can take over some parts, which I understand. It's scary, but at the same time, it's such a great tool. That if it's used correctly, like you did, for example, for City of Life, can really make life so much easier.
I wouldn't say like I'm scared of AI and I'm scared that it's gonna take all over our industry, but it's definitely something that we should really look out for and use in our advantage rather than have it turn on us. But so is everything that ever evolved through history, you know?
Living life in moderation, I think, is the hardest thing you can do. And this is something I echo to my friends all the time. It's so easy to be an extremist one way or the other. You know, to be, you know, very pro something or very anti something, but can you actually sit in the middle and find the advantages of both? Same thing like with food, for example. You shouldn't not eat, you shouldn't overeat, you should eat in moderation. And I think that the way we approach, you know, all of these new technologies, the way we approach philosophies, religion, etc., like sitting in an area of critical thinking is so important. And I think once, as I said before, outsourcing, you know, our integrity or outsourcing our thoughts, like that's where things get shaky. So I think it's everyone's personal responsibility to say like, okay, I see the advantage of it. I have these fears, but I'm going to try and navigate this ethically.
Yes.
So
You need to ride a wave. You just
So nice.
you just get scared and you say, I'm not going to use it.
Yeah.
And so many people will
Yeah.
Outgrow
you and use
Yeah.
it. And so yeah, I completely agree with you.
I
That's
mean,
a really
listen,
good
I'm
point.
turning 30, and whenever there's like a new technology coming out, I'm like, nope, I'm
Yes,
not learning that.
Same.
Absolutely
I'm too
not.
old for that.
Who
No.
has the time? I
Yeah.
was like, I'll have my, you know, future grandkids explain that one day. Not even close
And
to
then you
that.
end up
But
But yeah, but if you think about it, it's the same thing with Wi-Fi and the internet when it
Everything.
started. How scared were our parents and grandparents?
well, because everyone was told the world was going to explode, like literally,
Everyone said
like
See,
Y2K.
2000 or 2000.
Yeah,
they said
2000. Yeah,
everything is
Y2K.
gonna
They
be-
were
and
like,
then 2012, and then 2000, I don't know.
yeah, but
how-
that was the Mayans. That was different.
Yeah.
that was what?
That was the Mayan
Mayans.
calendar.
The Mayan calendar finished in 2012.
Yeah. so that's
Bismillah.
We're here now. It's 2025, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
but I also think like
Never
I was
wrong.
actually reminiscing on this the other day and how kind of privileged I feel that growing up I got to have the internet, but it was only like when you were bored you would go on the internet. It wasn't the way it is now, right?
Oh, true.
So it was like you would go out and play with your friends and do this or watch a movie, and when there's nothing really going on and your friends are busy, oh, let me go on like myscene.com.
Yes.
You know, or like barbie.com.
Yes, yes.
Or like
yes.
Penguin Club.
Yes, yes. I used to go on
You
Penguin.
remember that?
I used to play Penguin Cup all the time. My penguin was pink.
You're joking.
Yes.
That's
I'm
crazy.
not joking. No.
So yeah, so it's a very, I mean, and now we are where we are with the internet, right? So I think it's
Necessity
just
now.
necessity.
You can't live without
You
it.
can't.
You really cannot live without it now.
No,
Can you? Can you live without the internet?
No. I mean, I think everyone can.
Yeah, of
Everyone,
course.
if you like, if you go on a, I don't know, like a retreat or something, and you go there knowing that for X amount of time you have to just be there without internet, etc., and you do it voluntarily, everyone can do that.
I think like because on a tribal level, humans are so community oriented
Yeah.
that once we got something that kept us all connected all the time, that there might be like a link between like that feeling of like needing to be like in a community
Yeah.
and like being constantly
Kind
like
of a survival instinct.
Yeah, but it's isn't.
But
it's,
now it's been like
it's not just communicating; it's scrolling and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
serotonin that creates in you.
Yeah,
It's not
the
just like
dopamine.
communicating. With
I used to
people.
be a very big like reader in my teen years, like huge reader, like 800-page book in like 4 days.
Wow.
Twilight Breaking Dawn, I ate you. 4 days, Stephanie Meyer. Okay, this is not reflective of my taste now, but no, yeah. So then I kind of thought, I was like, why did I get so out of it? And then I started over the past few years reading more and more again. And then I realized my brain was like so like the wiring was crazy. Like I was skipping ahead, and
Yeah.
so you have to kind of like retrain yourself to
Yes.
read.
That's the word, retrain yourself. You literally have to retrain yourself
Yeah.
to read. Oh my god, I've been struggling with that.
Same.
I've
I
been
started a book
really-
and then I've really struggled to finish
Well, I've
it.
started like 10
Started
books.
and yes, literally. I've got
I
like
never finished
many
any of
open.
them in the past few months.
Really?
Yeah.
So I've been good with finishing them, but it's like you gotta lock me in those
Yeah.
first few chapters, or I'm like, okay, tomorrow.
Yeah. And then when it's a self-help book especially,
Oh, I can't
love
do it.
those. Those are
I
the best.
hate it. I
You
hate
hate
it so
it?
much. No.
No.
If I'm reading in my free time, there better be a vampire.
Really?
There better be,
How this
some like witches or something. There better some supernatural. I'm reading as escapism. I
Have
am
you
not
read
reading to make myself
Acotar?
better. Sorry.
Acotar?
No, I hated the writing. I'm
Oh,
gonna
really?
get so much hate for this. This is how I know I'm gonna cancel myself. This is how I
This is
cancel
how you
myself.
cancel it.
No, I hated the writing. The writing drove me insane, and also the protagonist, her like mental thoughts. I just wasn't wanting to slam the
Just-
book on her.
you know what I'm curious about is how did that affect your decisions in the production in your own work? You know, your taste in books, your taste in movies. Do you feel like that sneaks up on you sometimes?
For sure. I mean, we all have our subconscious biases, right?
Yes.
But then I also think you have to put your business cap on and think market viability. You know, so for our first movies, Spy always hits.
Yes, for sure.
You know, like a little dark comedy, a little apocalypse thing, always hits. And especially
Lead
for this
empowerment,
Yeah.
women lead empowerement also sells.
region. Yeah, yeah,
Especially
yeah.
if they're from Spain and Egypt, maybe.
I mean, maybe a little bit. You guys, we're gonna talk about it.
They could play best
Relax.
friends.
African
You know what?
roots,
I'm gonna have you, and I'm gonna make you kill each other now, just because of all of that.
You know what? Actually, we both do stunts.
I
So
love
we
that.
are capable of that.
Yes.
But we're not going to kill each
Beautiful.
other. We'll stab each other, get hurt, and then get up again because we're strong women.
Yes,
We're gonna stab each other.
For fun.
for fun.
Yeah, sure.
A little stabby,
I never
stabby.
thought you would say that.
In a show.
Oh, no, I'm joking.
Oh, my best friend stabbed me in a show once.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's your best friend?
No. My best friend at the time. You're my best friend.
Speaking
Not
about
the
this, I think-
infidelity.
Yeah.
I slipped. I'm sorry.
But yeah, speaking about this, I think it's like I'm really interested to hear from your side, because from our side we've always been taught that the people that we really need to impress are casting directors, you know, like you get a casting, and then casting directors are the ones that choose you or not, which in certain sense is true. They
Yeah.
probably pass the right people towards the director and producers. I wanted to ask you, is that something that like normally happens to you as well? Do you get the selection of the actors that then you guys choose, or is that something that someone else does?
Generally, how I've understood things to work is that unless you're making like a big budget, like a big studio movie, you will already attach cast.
Okay.
And then you'll probably audition for the smaller roles.
Right.
And in that case, you might, I mean, it depends, right? From what I've understood, like either you have just the casting director, or you have, you know, you might have some production, you might have direction that's there as well, going through the process. I think it depends on project to project and to like the volition of each creator.
Yeah.
You know, some people are more involved, some people are less. But I think that's in terms of, you know, big budget films, that's how I've understood the industry to work.
They have like the cast already in mind.
Yeah. And also, I mean, like, you know, we see interviews and stuff, and you see screenwriters or directors say like, oh yeah, when I was writing this, I had, you know, ScarJo in mind completely. And then she signed on, and yay, you know. So it is very, I think, project dependent.
Yeah,
is
makes
how I
sense.
would-
Makes sense.
Okay, I'm curious to know, why do people think or have this image of producers in their head as the bad guy?
So we manage a lot of interesting personalities and interesting expectations. And sometimes people don't like that management, or they don't like the answers you give them. So, you know, thankfully, I haven't been in the hot seat like that much, but I have seen the hot seat, and you're dealing with, like, as I said, creative personalities. And you're also dealing with...
It's trying to be so nice.
And you're dealing with, I mean, everyone has like their agents, their managers. I want this, I want that, da 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 da. And then you're also having to manage, like, for example, like location, what their expectations are. Oh, we want to have this many scenes. We want that. So you're constantly having to be like the no man. So I think that that's where that reputation kind of comes
makes
from.
sense.
Interesting.
From what I've, you know, been around and come to understand, it's very much like, you know, a director will have a vision and want something, an actor will have a vision and want something, but is there budget? So, you know, are there other obligations? Are there other exclusivities? So you really have to, you know, kind of, and plus when you're in the art world, like everyone just wants to do the most, right?
Yes.
And in a beautiful way. Like they just want it to be the best thing ever, and they want to put their all into it. So things tend to like snowball and, you know, get a bit larger than life, and producers very much have to come in and be like, hi, we're on Earth.
Come back. Come
Yeah,
back.
come
please.
back down,
Yes.
please.
Let me ground you for a
We
minute.
miss
We're
you.
here. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch.
Makes sense. So you guys are almost like in between,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And no one
Being
likes
the
to
no
be,
man is
yeah,
the
or even
tough
like
job.
the strict parent, you know,
Yeah.
like no one wants that job.
Okay.
The director is always I feel like always the nice parent. Like, I'll see if I can do that. You think?
Yeah, I mean, like Ali, for example, was amazing. He was super, like, he had his vision and was, you know, whenever I saw the actors had like ideas, he'd be like, yeah, okay, let's try that.
amazing.
Yeah. So I think Lynn even said in their press conference prior to filming, when they just started filming, she said that Ali is very much an actor's director.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
love
love
actor directors.
Yeah.
Big heart to actor directors.
So yeah, he's phenomenal.
I
And then
love that.
the other directors that I've been in touch with since, I can't really name drop, but it's the same. You know, they're very like, these projects are their babies, and they want to see their babies grow.
Yeah.
Are there many directors right now here in the UAE, or the ones that you've been talking are mostly from outside, thinking to come here?
So there's a couple big ones that are already here.
Okay.
Then there are some that are kind of like halfway in between, because as we said, we're seeing this shift out here, right?
Yeah.
So it's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening slowly, but it's happening. And then some are based abroad. I mean, like, for example, Neil's based in the UK, and he was so adamant on, you know, coming out here and filming out here
Amazing.
and trying something new and, you know, opening up this environment and film.
He's like a visionary.
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah, we love
It
Neil.
is-
Hi, Neil.
yeah.
Hi,
Neil.
And JD. Hi.
Oh, that's so funny.
How do you balance between the logical aspect and then the creative aspect? Because that sounds really tough.
Oh, I'm super mentally unstable. Shout out to my therapist.
We need to make a cut of everything.
This one needs to be a real alone. I'm super mentally unstable.
Your therapist is making a fortune, right?
she can.
All creative therapists are making a fortune
yeah,
by
for
They're
sure.
like, please go into acting. That would
For
be super
sure.
fun.
Yeah.
Oh, no, exactly. I mean, but I think if I dive deep into it, so growing up, I was a huge theater kid. Like
Okay.
a
A
huge
huge
what?
theater kid.
Okay.
Oh.
So my mom, I was like in community productions when I was like really young in the States. And as even here in primary school, I did plays, and all the way through, I think, like high school, basically. I was, until I went to boarding school, but I was always very involved in like theater and plays and musicals. So, and I mean, even for me personally, if you're asking my favorite medium, I think theater is 10 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
Because you have such an automatic, how do you say, connection with your audience. And as a performer, it's harder because you have to memorize everything.
Of course.
There's no like, oh, can I line?
no
Like, that
mistake.
doesn't
No,
happen.
no, yeah.
So you're really on the tip of your toes all the time in terms of your energy, your recall. You know, you bring everything.
Yeah.
And I loved theater so much growing up. And then my family, they just were like a bit old school. I think you'll also have this you have this in South Asia, but also in the MENA region, where, you know, those kinds of vocations aren't exactly parent approved.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of told, like, no, like, you have to focus on something like business or, you know, a specialization. I was very much discouraged from going down that path. And, you know, in the end, like, I ended up, you know, I have like my master's in international business management and languages. Like, I have a certification from Cornell in PR strategy. When I was working at AWS, I got my cloud practitioner certificate. So like, my education was like going and going and going. And then I always had this passion for the arts.
Wow.
So I kind of was always like, I would, you know, binge watch. I had a friend who once told me, he's like, you don't binge watch, you devour. So I would like, and I would deep dive, and, you know, for example, White Lotus, obsessed.
Who isn't?
So obsessed.
Why can't I find it anywhere?
OGX?
OSN.
OSN.
Yeah, OSN,
I was
yeah.
looking for it. I was like, why can't I? Everyone's watching it, but
Yeah,
I can't
OSN.
find
So
it.
good.
Okay.
OSN.
Yeah.
And I think actually it's the best example I could have given, because White Lotus does such a good job of marrying the artistic aspect of TV and film in the script and the writing and the subcontext and the subplots and, like, you know, the dialogue that isn't even spoken, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have on a business level, it's amazing. Like the impact on tourism, so I'm not sure if you're aware that, but they ended up going to Thailand because there was a bidding war between Thailand and Japan.
Oh.
And Thailand came in at the last minute, was like, we'll give you a bigger rebate than Japan will. Please film here, because of the numbers that came in from Maui and Taormina after the last seasons. Hotels booked, restaurants booked. I was also very heavily influenced. I did my 28th birthday in the Four Seasons in Taormina.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah. I thought I was like super cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Thank you. No, so just to go back, so I think having been not forced. I mean, I've always had like a very entrepreneurial mindset. So I think that having started my my life in this different zone and then moving into another one, now where I sit in my job, I get to marry both together.
I love that.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Perfect, yes.
Yeah. So I'm very, alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm so blessed.
I'm so happy.
And I absolutely love this industry, and I love the work that I do, and I love the people that I work with, and it's all been such a crazy ride. And I can't wait for it to keep going.
Yeah. I love that.
As you said, parents are always so worried about us and our well-being, and they want us to have a job that will have us alive, basically. You want to make money, you want to grow and make sure that you have something stable and a stable income that will give you a proper life.
Yeah.
So influence all the parents. How do producers make money?
So most of it, so I mean, as you understand, like with any piece of art, music, for example, there's royalties, right? So when you sell rights to a movie, or like, let's take, for example, what's like a good example? Let's say you produce like a little indie movie and it's done, you've made the money on it, etc., or you've funded it, is what I mean to say. When you're done with the movie, you sell it. You might sell it to a streamer, you might sell it to a distributor, you might sell it to another film house, and then from that you get royalties.
Yeah.
So the more popular that's why we look at box office numbers, right? Because that is just your ROI in your face. So when you look at that and you've spent a certain amount on a film, and then how much are you going to make that first month? It used to be the first weekend, now the first month.
Right.
And that income, I mean, not just from like ticket sales, etc., I mean, which is a great indicator, but then you have like the royalties off the back of that. So how long it stays in the box office, how long it stays on a streaming platform, how many regions on that platform are you selling the content to?
Wow.
Right.
Because you have like Netflix MENA, you have Netflix Global. So, and then from that, there's like, it gets very like complicated. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant. This is just very high level.
No, but
Yeah.
still, that it makes sense.
It makes sense. And go on.
How is it like for actors, for example, when they're not shooting? Do they have another way to make money, for example? Like with you mentioned that that's something that you
what we do with our product placement, our idea, our methodology is that the brand deals that we source for the movies, we then post-production want to pass on those deals to the artists, so to the talent. So like, let's say we lock a deal with I don't know, Sony for a movie, right? And they're doing product placement in the movie. We will then go back to Sony and say, hey, the lead cast of the film, why not do a brand deal with them? That way you're actually milking the most you can out of the project.
Yes.
For not only for the movie, not only for the company, but then the talent also get a piece of the action.
Of course.
And I mean, also the higher you get and the higher you rank, like maybe you might be able to get some of that like pre-production stuff, etc. But I think if you're not actively filming how to make money, I mean, and it kind of breaks my heart to say this, but social media is like crazy important. And being active and staying booked, like just doing stuff, I mean, the more you, at least from what I've noticed, like a lot of good agents, they will book you back to back.
Yeah.
There should always be something cooking, another conversation to be had, something happening, right?
Do you as a producer look at talent social media a lot?
So for different reasons, because I mean, again, I'm coming to this conversation wearing multiple hats, right? So if I'm looking at it from, our agency perspective and the post-production deals, I will, some brands, they care, some brands, they don't care. Like you'll say, hey, this person only has a certain amount of followers. Can we still do a deal? Da, da, da. And then sometimes they're so invested in the project that they'll be like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, but it helps you to have that following.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of like generating, you know, passive income, but also in building your career a little bit, I'd say. If not, if anything, if you don't have to do the whole blog. It could just be a place to showcase your work.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
It's your own branding. It's your own trailer. Like now we live in a day where, you know, people will reach out to you just because of social media and they'll say, hey, I mean, like, I like your, I mean, I would never do this, but like you give really good financial advice. Like, can you please help me? And like they'll hire that person, you know? So just because of the way they've branded themselves and the way that they've exposed themselves to the world. So I think it's a great way for artists such as yourself to kind of take hold of your own narrative and you know you're not at the mercy of someone else or another branding agency or PR agency. Like you are in complete control of your image. And I think that's the way people don't really look at it that much anymore.
That's true. That is true.
I think that's like a bit of the mentality of the artist. I just do my art, and whoever sees it, that's it. I don't need to like put it out there, and I need to be like discovered and seen, which I think everyone kind of had at some point in their life.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's very important that we realize that that's not really the reality anymore, and we need to switch and we need to put it out there as much as possible instead of just hoping to be saved and seen.
If we look at this, I mean, if we even look at like the early 2000s, right? I mean, people were doing the same thing. It's just that there wasn't a centralized platform.
Yes.
I mean, they were going out and there would be PR relationships and you'd go and you call the paparazzi on yourself and, you know, you do this and you do that and you go for lunch with these people and you go to those events and these parties. And
it was more in person. Now everything is like online.
Yeah, now you don't have to like see people that you don't want to see.
Yeah, but also back then, I mean, the artists or the talent themselves had no control over the narratives that being written about them.
Yeah.
So we're actually in an era where you own that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot less dangerous than it used to be.
Yeah, I think it's very beautiful to know that you have the freedom, the full platform to showcase your art. And I think what most people struggle with is just being in the trend, following the trend, wanting to always be there. But one thing I realized with time and with the podcast, actually, from the guests we have, is there's the trend is a trend for a reason. It comes for 15 seconds and then it goes away.
Yeah.
And then you just have to be okay with that. Like,
so, I mean, I wrote my master's dissertation on the weaponization of memetics in political marketing. So basically how memes were used in politics for like political campaigns and stuff. And
that's so interesting.
Yeah, it was crazy. I saw some really dark places of the internet. What my research really showed is that authenticity online is so important. Is so important. Originality, authenticity, and also like the commitment to it too.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll often see people, oh, she sold out, oh, they did this, they did that, but because they went off who they sold themselves as, right? And so that commitment, so trends will come in and out, but as long as your core is consistent and still there,
I love that.
that's like the most important thing. And also in life, right? I mean, like you'll have your personal style and then sometimes you'll be like, let me get some like leopard print ballerina. So just, I see it that way. It's like a form of kind of accessorizing your social medias to engage with trends.
yeah, I've honestly learned a lot in this episode.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah.
So much. It's like what you were saying about you having many different hats. I think it's very important for artists that realize that they also have to put on many hats. It's not just, I'm an actor. That's it. I'll go on set and I do it.
I mean, for some people, some people, but also these are very privileged people that have the connections where they don't need to
exactly
do this
if you
work.
have the connections. But that's not the majority.
And now thinking about it, like even in every other job, you can't just be one thing. We live in such a world where, especially now, you have to do so much and it's a lot to catch up to. So if you just stick with one thing, I mean, it's good, but at the same time, if that's what you want, it's fine. But if you want to expand as much as you can, you want to learn as much as you can, you want to involve yourself in as many areas in so many industries as possible, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you know the saying, a jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than a master of one?
Ooh. Tell us why you say that.
Because, I mean, this phrase very much like encapsulates me as a person, so I'm a bit biased. You know, being mixed, being a third culture kid, having worked in so many different, you know, industries and stuff, and I genuinely believe it, because if you're so focused on one thing and that's all you know, but like if you've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you're like holistic knowledge after that. Like you're learning here, you're learning there, you're constantly picking up new things and you're constantly evolving. And then you realize, wait, like I learned this from like that industry or that person, I can actually apply that here.
Exactly.
And it just, I think in terms of like your critical thinking,
Yes.
it just helps it evolve so much.
That is so true. The most thing that helped me with acting was actually sitting with directors, learning from them, producers, art designers, DOPs, people who are in charge of lights.
Yeah.
And also studying for a business degree on the side.
Yeah.
All of that genuinely helped me improve my acting career.
I think
for
it's
sure.
also like speaking with people that are not necessarily within the industry. I
Yep.
feel like I learn so much when I speak with, I don't know, someone who works at a shop, for example.
Yeah.
And I understand why they chose that, understand like everything behind it. That's like sort of things that then I can use, for example, to develop my characters and things like that. So I think it's super important
You
that
know-
you don't just like close yourself into
No,
one
and,
thing.
and also
True.
we live in, I mean, for now, a globalized society.
For now.
For now.
Yeah.
Inshallah, it stays this way. And so like you would be so remiss and you would be disadvantaging yourself to not look at different perspectives, industries, thought processes, cultures.
Yes.
Like this just builds who you are as a person. I mean, I saw another quote that was like, I am just a mosaic of other people's experiences or something like this.
I love that.
And it's so true. And I
Yes.
think, you know, it obviously depends. I mean, if you want to be a doctor, like don't not do medicine.
Yeah, I mean,
Please, don't kill
You
us.
know, yeah.
S'il vous
Please
plaît.
get your license legally. So I mean, it's very dependent, but I mean, like for my friends and my family, I'm always of the perspective that the more you do, the more you learn.
Yeah.
And learning is at the end of the day like what we're supposed to be doing on earth.
Yes.
The moment you stop learning, you've stopped living, in my
For
opinion.
sure. Wow, I love
agree
that.
with that so
I
much.
love that.
You're basically giving yourself a shortcut if you go to an experienced person. So imagine someone who's been experienced in, let's say, diamonds for 15 years. You just go and you have one conversation with them and you have gained insight on 15 years worth of experience. That's what my friend does the other day. I was like walking with her in the mall. She's like, Rahab, sometimes I just go into, you know, high-end shops and I go to like people, to shops that specialize in one thing. And I tell them, I'm new to this. Can you please teach me? I want to buy. And
People love that.
That's so nice.
People love that.
love to
Yes.
like share.
Yeah, and
especially
teach.
and teach. Yeah.
Imagine like a 23-year-old girl comes to you. She's like, I want to buy a watch and I want you to teach me.
I don't know anything about it. How can it? Yes.
Yeah.
How
That's so nice.
how amazing would you feel if a kid comes to you and like,
Yes.
can you teach me about acting?
Yes. I mean,
wanna
that's
start-
pretty much what we're trying to do.
Yeah, basically.
I remember in uni, I had a friend, Eric, if you're watching this, I'm going to put you on blast, who did not study at all for our law exam. and and the night before he comes to me, he's like, Sarah, teach me everything.
You're joking.
Yeah. But also, like, I don't know why, you know, Eric was... He's a good friend, and he was just a very quirky individual, and I have a soft spot for quirky people. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. So we went over. I was like teaching him everything overnight, and that helped me study.
Yep.
Of course.
That helped me actually know the content even more.
Yeah.
Like when you're teaching, you're actually also absorbing.
Yes.
Which is something that people forget about. So everyone's like, I don't want to, you know, no, talk about it. No, but the more you talk about and the more you explain, the better you actually get to know what you're talking about.
You
I
can't
know,
teach
that's-
something that you don't know.
Yeah.
So the fact that you are able to teach it, it just furthermore sticks the information in your brain.
And also
That's
when
how
you're
I study
talking
in
about
uni.
stuff, like you put things together, right? So you might be like reading something or whatever, and you're like, okay, I understand that, and I understand that, and I understand that. But when you're talking it through, you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
leads to this, which lead. So it's yeah.
It's a great way for you as well to like create new brain. How is it?
Neural pathways.
Neural pathways.
Neural pathways.
Yes.
Yes. Neural pathway queen.
This is like
This
completely
episode.
outside of the theme and the conversation, but I love your talk.
I was
love
looking at it the whole
I've been like
time.
staring at it the whole
I've been
time.
like adjusting it this whole time.
Yeah. Where is it from?
The embroidery, the
Cute.
corners.
It's so cute.
Feast your eyes. No, so a friend of mine, it's her company brand actually. They're Dubai based, Indian born,
Shout out to
beautiful
her.
stuff.
What's her name?
Quab.
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 We will write it here.
We'll link her Instagram over here so that
you have to. She does amazing like Asian fusion pieces.
Yeah,
Is
because
it
it's
handmade?
Yeah, handmade.
Wow.
Yeah.
A
This
lot
was
of-
custom, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
I love that. It's beautiful. I'm jealous. I want one.
I want one
I
too.
really want one.
I'll get you both one.
We always end the episode. I don't want this to end, honestly.
I know.
But we always end the episode with two questions. The question is, what's one advice you would give to someone who's just starting in your industry?
I don't really know because I don't know how I ended up here. But I think I would say just like I think being open. I think having this like enthusiasm to learn, to realize I think ego can be a good thing in life, right? But also checking it sometimes and being like, okay, because I mean for me at least coming in I was like, what is going on? And then the more I listened as well, like listening, observing, being part of it. I mean like me being having my now IMDb page for featured hostess.
Yeah.
But like being in a scene,
Living it. Being
yeah,
there,
living it, like
yes.
just experiencing everything, like on a 360 level. What is it that Kendall Jenner said to Kylie? She's like, you just want to experience things. I don't think you're experiencing things the way that you should be experiencing. So experience that.
You should actually be a full-on actress.
Literally, you're such a performer. I love
you're
I loved
such
literally every moment of this episode. I loved it. Honestly, get on, guys.
Give her a role.
Give her a role.
Oh my
Listen,
God.
wait. You could give yourself a role.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Give yourself a
I
role.
don't know. I honestly I think it's fun, but I mean like having been on set and having been the hostess number 2. I really realized when it comes to acting, I much prefer theater.
Okay.
I
I
just
love
feel like I
theater.
got so much more from it, and so I think if I was to maybe make a comeback, I don't think it'd really be on film. But you
It'll be
never
on
know. You
theater.
might see me in a scene or two, do a
Nice.
cameo. But I'm definitely, I'm very happy behind the camera. And
Nice.
as I said before, I don't think that there's enough women that are behind the camera.
Yeah.
Like maybe is this why we've had a wage disparity between actors and actresses because there isn't enough female representation in the producing
That
rooms?
made me angry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we've all
Yeah.
lived it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, but so I think having a woman or women advocating for women behind the scenes is so important. So
That's one thing I think I spoke to you that I try to really have someone in the industry who's like a female figure wherever I go. Like my current agent, she's a female and I absolutely love her. I
Yeah.
adore her. And I just feel way more protected when there's like a female figure next to me in this
Yeah.
industry. you know?
absolutely. And I mean like even when we do our meetings, when we're trying to onboard like female talent, I make a point to say like this is a safe space. And if you are ever uncomfortable with anyone or anywhere, like no question.
Yeah.
We have like you are covered, you are protected. We will come in and whatever is
We need
needed.
more
Yeah.
more productions need to learn from this.
Honestly.
And
shade.
we have the second question, which is a little bit more broad. But what is one thing you have the mic, you have the camera? What's one thing that you will tell the world?
You're all wrong. Like literally all of you that think you're right, especially those of you that think you're right, you're wrong. 10,000%. And the fact that you don't have the ability to critically think and question yourself, girl. So
Okay, good one. There you go.
Oh, I love
Great
this
ending.
conversation so much. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you for teaching us about all sides of production and, putting us into that world and seeing from that perspective.
I think I've learned so much, honestly.
oh girl.
I feel like when when you're in you know an actor, you don't normally ask questions about how production works and this, because it's something that is always happens like behind the scenes. So having you here and learning about it, I think it's been super valuable. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to sit across from two enchanting, beautiful, well-spoken women. And yeah, I mean, it's my first time.
Oh,
So be nice.
You were amazing.
babe,
You
I
were
loved
amazing.
the episode. I loved it, honestly.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you again next week.
Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment any thoughts you've had, and please share this episode with anyone who you think this is gonna resonate with. I think there was so much to learn, and this episode is definitely worth sharing. Bye bye, guys. Love
Bye.
you.